Welcome to a special edition of the Fresh CrEd, recorded live at Viva Fresh 2025, the premier show celebrating the Tex-Mex corridor, a vital trade route and year-round production hub. These episodes are made possible thanks to our amazing sponsors: Sunfed, Ifco, Monterey Mushrooms, EXP Group, Anavale, Arctic's Produce, Agrogonzamek, Agribot, Athos, and the Texas International Produce Association. Enjoy the episode.
We've been joined by a special guest, Mr. Jon Holder, VP of Produce and Floral with Superior Grocers.
Welcome aboard, John. The good ship Lollipop here.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Ed. Thank you for having me here today.
Thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, you'd be surprised the people that tell us no. So I wouldn't be though.
So my first time of meeting John goes back to my RPC days. I was hustling hard RPCs out in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we brought that program on board in Rayleigh's.
Yeah, exactly. And
wow,
that's right. So
why didn't you tell me y'all knew each other?
Because I figured it's like everything else in this show. It needs to be a surprise.
Wow, I'm blown away and surprised. So thank you for that.
Yeah, so
it made my life exciting today.
Well, that's what I'm here to do. But anyway, there's more about John. I just wanted to mention the fact that John and I do have a history.
Sure.
We do.
And it's not a dark history like most people I know.
Yeah, it's not tainted at all.
No, not at all. No. Although there was this bus ride that we used to do.
That's true.
There was that.
Yeah, we used to do a produce tour that IFCO helped sponsor, and
we're gonna have to bring that back.
Yeah.
Note taken. We were chatting a few minutes ago before we started, though. In all seriousness, you said the show was great.
Yes.
Third time you've been here.
Time.
So obviously, you live in Santa Fe Springs, California, right now?
I live in Brea, which is in Orange County.
Okay.
Yes.
It's not around the corner. There is some effort to get here. It is a Saturday, but you obviously felt it was important enough to be here. So
yes,
we appreciate that.
Yes, and plus I like getting out into different markets, going out and looking at the retailers in those markets, see if there's anything that I'm missing for my customer base that I should be bringing in.
That's awesome. Heading back today?
No, heading back tomorrow.
All right. Well, we'll have you in Houston one more day.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Take a little opportunity of the Houston hospitality.
Now, you're a baseball fan, right?
Yes, I actually grew up a Cincinnati Reds fan.
Yeah. And now are you going to make it to tonight's game?
No, I won't be going to the game.
So anyway, it's nearby.
Yes.
But John, you've got a great story on just from the grassroots up. I mean, you're like the traditional guy that started. It's usually that started sacking groceries but so much
right.
The generation that you and I are from, you've got the traditional story of so many people in that space. So just real quick, just unpack. I mean, it's a lot in there, but just
it would take a couple hour shows.
Yeah,
I'm sure you can give us the abridged version.
I can give you the abridged
Reader's
version.
Digest version for those people that can remember that.
Okay, well, I started at 16 years old as a courtesy clerk. I was a bag boy back then, obviously, but for a small company in Northern California, and really haphazardly got the job because I lived next door to the store manager. Really wasn't planning on going into the grocery industry, and I was in the store one day, and he pulled me into his office. He says, "You think you could bag groceries and push carts?" And I said, "Yeah, I could." And he said, "Well," he says, "two things you're going to have to do," because back then I always wore a baseball cap. So you're going to have to cut your hair, and you're going to have to take off that baseball hat.
So now, what was your hair situation like?
It wasn't super long, but it was down to my collar at least.
Too bad organics weren't around. You could have kept the hair.
Absolutely. Yes.
Anyway.
Both my sons today have long hair.
So no ball caps, no long hair.
Yeah.
16 years old.
16 years old. And I really was going to go to college. And after I graduated high school, I decided, well, I'm going to take a year and really decide what I want to do. I had two career paths that I'd picked out for myself. One was either an architect or a geologist.
Right.
And, because I'd always been a rock hound.
That makes all the sense in the world. You wound up in produce.
Yeah, it does. It really does. But they promoted me immediately to an apprentice clerk once I could work full time. And within a year, I was a journeyman clerk. And at that time, in 19, let's see, I graduated 77, so 1978, I was making $25,000 a year because Northern California had the best contract in the United States for grocery employees. So
yeah, that's what year? What year was that?
That was 1978.
1978. I can tell you that was out of college in 91, 92. I believe my base salary out of college in the 90s was not far off from that.
Yeah.
So that was good money in that time of year for sure.
And that's why I got stuck in it.
Yeah.
And then after I'd become an apprentice clerk, the produce manager in that store, he saw what a hustler I was, how I worked hard and worked fast, and he asked for me, and that's where I ended up, was in the produce department. I ended up being his second person.
Wow.
And then off to Rayleigh's soon after that?
Rayleigh's in 1983. So I'd worked...
Same region?
Same region. Well, somewhat. I was still in Northern California. I had worked my way up from a box boy to a store manager. And then Rayleigh's was hiring, and a friend of mine had gone to work for him, and he says, man, this is a growing company. You've got to come to work for him. So I ended up leaving that job and moving to the Bay Area, Antioch, Pittsburgh area of California, and going to work for Rayleigh's there, and did really well, worked my way up, and ended up being second in charge at Rayleigh's at one point.
Well, they shipped you to Vegas first, right?
They shipped me to Vegas. During the Albertsons Lucky transition, we opened 19 stores there that used to be Albertsons. And then about 3 years later, Rayleigh's really wasn't doing well in the market because they came in. They had just been voted the #1 supermarket in the U.S., and they came in with that attitude, and that didn't work in Vegas.
Yeah.
You know, they came in, didn't do their pricing studies right, came in too high priced, and the customer never forgave us. And so they pulled out 3 years later, and I left for a short period of time because I had made some promises to my girls when I moved them down there, because we'd lived in far northern California in Redding for 15 years. So my kids were born there, and they had started high school there, and I promised them, I won't move you again until you graduate high school. So
that's awesome.
I had a hard decision to make, and I had to leave the company, and it was a tough day, and ended up working for the Ralph's Food for Less group as the same position as a specialist. And a year and a half later, I got a call from Rayleigh's, and they had asked me to come back and wanted me to take over the Reno division, and it was just perfect timing. And then I took over the Reno division, and about a year and a half later, Greg Corrigan, he had just been promoted to director of produce, and he said, I want John to come down and be my right-hand person. So that's where I ended up until I retired from Rayleigh's in 2015.
Well, you didn't exactly retire.
I didn't really retire.
In fact, you probably did the opposite of retire.
Yeah, I actually went on the perfect diet program. Buy yourself a grocery outlet and spend 12 hours a day in it, 7 days a week.
Yeah,
that'll show him.
Yeah.
That'll show him.
I was pretty slim back then.
Yeah. I can't even imagine. I worked as a kid in grocery stores, and my brother one time was an Albertson store manager, and God, that's a tough life.
Yeah.
You were a franchisee?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a good experience, really good experience. But I think you read in my bio, we lost our oldest daughter due to lung cancer, and actually it was 3 months after we took over the store.
Oh, wow.
And so, my wife and I, we limped our way through it, and we were doing well. But Scott knew that Scott Olson was director of produce at Grocery Outlet at that time, and he knew my work ethic, and he knew I didn't want to spend 12 hours a day in the store, so he brought me into the office as a East Coast and Northwest buyer.
Yeah.
And then I was perfectly happy in that position, doing fairly well. And then Rich Wardwell, who's current CEO of Superior Grocers down in L.A., he had been after me since 2014 because he was with me on that opening those stores in Las Vegas. That's where we met.
Oh my God!
He worked for
Think
Rayleigh's
about how
as well.
time, yeah.
And so he he finally threw enough money at me to get me to move to Southern California, and that's where I've been for the last 6.5 years.
But like I say, that great story, great freaking journey. Overcame obviously some really difficult stuff. And,
yes. Tough time.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, my brother, lost his wife to lung cancer as well. So it's tough, but like I say, a lot of perseverance.
Absolutely,
A lot of perseverance. So,
Lived two places I've lived: Northern California and Las Vegas.
yeah, that's right. Well, Gilroy, I guess that's Central Valley, right?
Yeah, we call it NorCal.
Yeah.
We're definitely not South, and we don't want to be, or we didn't want to be. I haven't lived there since I was 18.
Yeah, and you don't want to be calling Gilroy the Bay Area either, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So-
It was a great place to grow up, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we lived out in the foothills, and it was literally like something. Looking back at it now, it was like something out of a movie. It was pretty cool. Time to be growing up in a cool area.
It's still a great area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're in the L.A. area.
I live in Brea,
Okay.
which is in Orange County. It's just east of Anaheim.
Yeah, the short period of time I lived in Orange County, I found out real quick they don't like to be considered L.A.
No.
And then if you
It's
say
Orange County.
and if you tell anybody in L.A. you're from L.A. and you're from Orange County, they're like, no, you're not. You're from Orange County. So
Right.
yeah, they're very much a dividing line between those two places.
Yes,
Tomato
there
and
is.
tomato.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, it's all one big lump.
I
get it.
And if you live there, it is a big lump. Let me just tell you what.
Well, I was just there weekend before last, but way out in the outskirts.
Yeah. So, you a pickleballer?
No, I'm not.
You're not?
I'm not a very athletic person at all.
Well, but now you do some hunting, right?
Yes. I enjoy deer and elk hunting. More hunting than harvesting.
I'm gonna try
obviously.
and keep Ed dialed back from taking over the conversation. But now you're talking his language, baby.
Right. Yeah. And I haven't I haven't been able to draw tags. We normally go up to northern Nevada, and we haven't drawn for the last 3 years. So
That is getting tough.
yeah, it's getting very tough.
It's amazing. There are now, I guess, firms, for lack of a better term, an agency. Maybe I guess I'd liken it to a travel agency. But if for the right price, they will manage and put you in for all the draws you want to put in every state, and basically manage. I mean, the idea would be to have enough things cooking or enough points cooking in every different state to where every year you're going to go somewhere. You
Right.
just don't know
You
exactly
just don't know where.
Yeah,
Yeah.
until it's time. So
Yeah.
I do the same thing with Colorado. Didn't hunt a lot when I was in Nevada, but I've been hunting with a buddy of mine since I was 20, 21 years old in the same area in Colorado. And there's probably better places to hunt and total DIY, camping, the whole 9 yards. But at this point, it's become more of a pilgrimage and more of a just honoring, some of our friends that are no longer with us, family that have been, and it's a really cool thing now.
Right.
Colorado with the reintroduction of wolves and that whole thing, trying to edge out the hunters. I could talk about that all day, but hopefully it won't ever keep out of staters from hunting there, because it's getting really tight. Now, if you want to plunk down 25 grand or 20 grand for a private land
then
hunt,
you can hunt anywhere you want.
then you can pretty much hunt
Anytime you
anytime
want.
you want.
Yes.
But I'm still a purist. At
Yes.
least.
Yeah. I
and
am
then
as well.
Living in South Texas, there's no shortage of that either. But again, very landowner locked, right? Not a lot of public land unless you're out west. But Texas has a draw system for, and I'm starting to ramble.
I know you are.
Stop me,
I'm
but,
hearing you.
Texas has a draw
Mason's
system as
over
well.
dozing off.
It's pretty friendly, pretty hunter friendly. So I just need to leverage that better. But you have an open invitation to come to South Texas anytime you're ready.
Love to.
Yeah, just bring your snake boots.
Yes. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's really the only place I can actually 100% unplug.
Yeah, agreed. Well, I say that, but for years and years, we would have to literally drive 30 minutes on a dirt road to drive 30 minutes on a highway to get to a payphone. That was truly disconnected. Now we're
Now you just have to
disconnected.
drive the top of the ridge, right?
Yeah, so now we're disconnected when we're at camp, but the minute you get up on the ridge, all of a sudden all the emails start loading up and bings
Right.
and dings and all that stuff. So there is still some disconnect, but even aside from that, it's really the only time I feel completely just relaxed, and that stuff, whatever's happening, kind of just goes over my head, and I figure I'll deal with it later. But it's the longest period of time I take off every year, and it's 2 weeks consecutive, and I feel a little guilty about it, but that's what it takes. By the time I drive from McAllen to Northwest Colorado and load up all my gear, drive up there and hunt, and then come back, it takes 2 weeks.
Right.
So it's a long time. But there's Thule elk in California that I've never hunted, and I would love to.
Yeah.
I have some friends that hunt down near King City and at Hunter Liggett.
Yes.
It's like
yes,
is it decommissioned base or something like that? Something
yes. Yeah. It's still a training area. But,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they hunt out there. They send me pictures all the time.
A lot of wild boar out there.
Yeah, that's what I've seen. You like wild boar, Craig?
Yeah, I do actually. Wild boar sausage is really good. Wild boar chili, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those in Texas.
Oh, way too many.
Yeah, I was going to say that it's not really a sport when you're hunting those.
So something has to trample the snakes, right?
There's plenty of them to do that. Yeah, for sure.
No, they're a nuisance. They're basically a varmint, if you will.
So I'm going to bring it back to hunting.
Oh God! I'll tell you.
Except I'm going to bring it back to hunting in the produce department. So I want to pick John's brain for the audience a little bit about So this is the guy that's ran a store, ran an independent himself, been in the produce a long time. John, what's going on right now in the produce space? Right, we saw packet salads. It's been 25 years or so at least when they
longer than that.
Yeah, whenever they got introduced, everybody said it'd never work, and well, boy, were they wrong on that.
Yeah, I was one of those.
Yeah. So what's going on today that you're looking at that you feel like may be something coming up? We had obviously kale a few years back was popping, but what's popping right now in the produce stuff?
A lot of tropicals.
Okay.
I've actually been well educated since I've gone to Southern California. At Rayleigh's, we thought we were always the people that always brought the first stuff to market and went after it in a way. But with the stores that we have, our customer base is 65% Hispanic, meaning not just from Mexico, but from Central America, South America, and they eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, and they eat a lot of tropical fruits. I can't believe how much rambutan and lychee nuts and dragon fruit that the Hispanic base buys.
Never had rambutan.
Yeah,
I have. They're good.
All right.
Yeah, they're kind of a lot of work, but
they're a lot of work, but it's
probably why I haven't eaten it.
But it's those things when we put them out in the stores and you see how much you can actually do with something that you would have thought, oh, maybe I can sell 10 pounds of this in a week, right? all of a sudden you see a customer pick up a 5-pound bag of it. It's interesting.
Yeah, so speaking of 10 pounds a week, why does anybody sell acorn squash?
It's always been there, right? Yeah,
I know, but it's like I look at all the other stuff that you could be using that shelf space for. I always ask myself, why does anybody? And we sell acorn squash, but not much,
right?
Yeah. 20, 30 cases is a big order a lot of times.
Yeah, we do carry 4 hard squashes. It's acorn, spaghetti, butternut, and kabocha. And kabocha is really in our stores. It's the top seller.
Have you tried the honey nut, the little butternuts, the honey bears?
No, I haven't.
They're really good. No. Yeah, and you can slice the peel and everything. It's not near as difficult as the traditional butternut.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you see the tropical space. Is it because of the clientele that you're faced with now, or do you just see that as a general trend overall?
I see it as a general trend overall, but it just seems like I'm seeing it more in the Hispanic retailers.
But in non-Hispanic, I would say there's probably a lot more adventurous shoppers, maybe.
Yes,
that can't hurt, right?
Well. Our generation, it's sometimes tough for us to step out of our shell. The millennials and the new generations, they're willing to try all that stuff. Yeah. They don't shy away from it. They see it, it's cute, it's neat, and they're not afraid to do it.
It's an experience too. Like it's
Absolutely.
not just hey, let's grab something to make for dinner and get it over with. They're literally like engaged in and enjoying and the experience of trying something new and probably posting something about it on Instagram. But so it's more experiential, I guess.
Right.
If you will.
Right. Yeah, and then something else that I think is going to continue to evolve with the younger generation is they want more recipe ready items.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to spend all day in the kitchen.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
This guy does. He's a hell of a cook.
Well, I love to cook myself.
I don't spend all
absolutely
day,
do.
but I
All
enjoy the
night, then?
process. Yeah, sometimes. I make apparently, according to my wife, I make a big mess. That's the only thing. She's glad that I cook, but she wishes I would learn to cook with a little less mess because I dirty every pan in the house.
You don't clean as you go?
No.
I'm a clean as you go guy because
Are you?
I can't stand a messy kitchen.
Yeah.
So.
Well. Yeah,
You got to do something while you're waiting for it to cook.
Mine's pretty
Craig.
disorganized. But
Does your wife want me to come over and train you?
yeah, please, yeah, she would love for that. If you could do that, she would be.
I even know how to load a dishwasher.
I think I know how to load it, but apparently I don't know how to do that either. So it's just easier for me just not to do the cleanup part, which I figure that's a little bit of a return, right? I do the cooking, somebody else does the cooking.
Sure.
So that's kind of the deal.
Well,
I just saying he touched on something, and I think it's a good segue. You talk about tropicals. We met with Anthony from EXP Group. That's what they do. They're tropicals from all over. And the question we asked him, and I think it's only fair, you being on the retail side, to ask you kind of the same deal. Talk a little bit about the tariff situation and what you see. How is it affecting your business, and how do you think it will affect your business going forward?
Well, obviously, it hasn't affected us so far due to the pause on the tariffs. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of uncertainty out there. We know that prices are probably going to rise if this happens.
Yeah.
But I think all of the shippers and growers behind the scenes, they're looking and saying, hey, we can't pass the entire tariff on to the retailer. So I think they are looking for ways to minimize that tariff. We had just gotten a notice from one of our floral suppliers that comes out of Colombia, mm-hmm. and even though we know that tariff was 10%, they had told us they were going to raise our pricing 6%.
Gotcha.
So I think a lot of that is going on behind the scenes. I don't know, but I can put myself in their shoes and saying, hey, I can't go to every retailer out there and say, boom, I'm passing every bit of this on to you.
Yeah.
So I think they're all looking at how they can do business smarter and try to get the grower to put in a little bit, the retailer to put in a little bit, and then the shipper to put in a little bit.
Well, we'll see that.
And then
Interesting take.
a little bit, right?
Yes.
And I mean, the customer in the end.
Yeah, the
Right.
customer.
No,
Yeah.
the customer on the end is going to pay for it,
Yeah.
but
that's kind of the deal. Anyway, I'm just curious, like I say, perspective-wise, how it looks and how people think it's going to affect, especially on that retail side. And I guess for you, you're not terribly concerned about it. I don't know. If you're not being in California, you're probably kind of guarded from some of it. You've got avocados that you can source not year round.
We can, yes.
Yeah, but you've got avocados. Garlic's not an issue. You don't have to worry about Chinese garlic. What you're doing. So
ginger's tough because it comes out of China, Peru,
and
Mexico,
pineapples.
Mexico,
Pineapples will be tough.
Pineapples, Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
but for the most part, it's kind of wait and see. Our executive meeting, we sat down and we talked to each department. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I just said, hey, I'm not going to be the first guy to have a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait and see what everybody else does. The big retailers, Kroger and Albertsons, they're going to make those moves first.
yeah.
Were
you in the session yesterday?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, stay informed. That's the best thing we can do. Is stay
Sure.
informed. Know what's happening. At this point, I've gotten more information about tariffs than I think I cared to know. But you have to.
Right. Yeah.
So we're getting the high sign over here, believe it or not. And so half an hour has gone by, but didn't want to wrap this up without getting a pearl of wisdom. With 40 years experience, you have to have something for us. A career lesson that stuck with you, or maybe some advice I know we're putting you on the spot, but you have to have something maybe that you could share with us that take it out.
My philosophy, the way that I go to do business, and what I tell my buyers all the time is treat everybody with respect, because they're just trying to make a living too. And there's too many retailers that say, we're the retailer, you're the wholesaler, you'll do what we say. It's got to be a partnership. And the more you look for those partnerships, those are the relationships that when you need them, they're going to be there. And so I always try to treat everybody with respect, and try to pick up the phone. There's too many people that don't pick up the phone anymore when people call you.
Well, that sounds really fair, and I think that's all we can ask for is just fair at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Well, thanks, John, for being with us.
It was my pleasure.
I said I like it.
Okay.
Sounds like that's a very good philosophy.
Yes,
and it's served John pretty well so far.
I'd say. Thanks for being with us, John.
It was my pleasure.
Until the next time
Thank
we
you for
meet,
having me.
maybe at another show in the near future, we'll pick it up from there.
Thanks,
All right.
John. Really appreciate it, man.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Greg.
Thanks for listening to this special edition of the Fresh CrEd, recorded live at Viva Fresh 2025. Stay tuned. We've got more voices from the heart of the produce industry coming your way.